Welcome to episode 1 of Teach with Mr. Hawkins. Being the first episode, we'll tell you what we're doing and why before we actually do it. So what we're doing is we're going to talk about some books from my personal collection as a teacher, and then how I might use them in a classroom, or if I was teaching some, tutoring a student, or with my own children at home. And why am I doing this, or why are we doing this, is because we've been asked in this time right now with so many people at home, what could they do? How could they help their child learn at home? So that's kind of the why. The first book is Peter's Chair by Ezra Jack Keats. It's an older book. I won't be reading the book because that's a copyright thing, but online you can find people reading most books. This one's a Reading Rainbow book from years ago. So Reading Rainbow was a TV show on PBS that did that. They read books. And of course, many books are available to purchase either through something like Kindle or Amazon or Indigo. Like, there's ways to get the books. This is being an old book, a lot of libraries, school libraries and things will have them. You may or may not find it on a local bookstore shelf. So Peter's Chair is the story of a young boy named Peter, and there's a sibling rivalry situation that occurs as there's a new baby in the house, and then he makes some decisions and how the family deals with that. That's the basic story of the book. I have used this book in K to grade 3 classes, but you could certainly read it to older students, which I'll get into later. A student in grade 3 could probably read this themselves, or most students in grade 2 could read this to themselves. But it's okay to read aloud, because reading is thinking. So there's the process of reading a book, like to decode the words and get through that, but there's also the process of knowing what you've read and what it's about and the ideas. And that's really the powerful part, and that's the work that you can do at home or in your classroom to really make your students better thinkers and better readers. So you can see that I have some post-it notes in the book. That's a trick I've used many times when I'm teaching or reading to a class, is that I'll have questions prepared ahead of time that I want to, I'll read the book and I'm going to pause at that point. So on this page, my question is, why does it matter that there's a baby in the house? Now that might be a discussion question that I ask the class. I might have the students turn to each other and use an elbow partner and talk about their answer. And that gives lots of students a chance to hear somebody else's idea. Don't have to stop and listen to them all, but I let them listen to each other and have a time to think. My next question, later in the book, why is he doing this and how is he feeling? And on the page, Peter is walking away with his chair. So he's made a decision. And my third one that I kept, and this is aimed really at my grade 2, 3 type classroom. What are the mom and dad thinking? It doesn't tell you that in the story. So to answer a question like that, your student or your child has to make an inference. They have to think about what clues are in the book and what do they know, what are they bringing to it. So they have to do a lot of thinking to back up their answer. After reading a book, you can discuss questions, or you could have a student write a journal response or a written answer. For example, something I often have really young or early readers do is have them do a 3-finger retell of the story. I want to know if they actually understood and can recall what they read. So the beginning of the story, Peter finds out they're having a baby and they're changing the stuff in the house. In the middle of the story, Peter decides to run away just to outside the front door, and he's tired of what's going on in the house. At the end of the story, he realizes he'd rather be at home, and the family solves the problem. That's the main ideas. There's little details missing there, but you're not trying to get the student to recall the entire book or reread the whole book to you. But you're checking, did they have an accurate recall? They can't answer questions well if they don't remember the story well. And you may even have to go back and point out an important page to remember this, or reread a part. If the student was silent reading it, you may have them reread that piece or read that piece to you, just to make sure they're getting it or they haven't made a misconception that's going to hurt their understanding of the text. This is the kind of story that many students could make a personal connection to. So you could ask that question, can you make a personal connection to this text or this story? Is this book, is the family in this book like yours? How is it so? How is it not like yours? For older students, how do we know this book was made over 50 years ago? There's actually a lot of clues between the words, the way the family's presented, and the illustrations that an older student should be able to detail that out and give their view on that. If you were publishing this book today, what would you change or revise? and even a high school student could take on a job like that, because it's open to your interpretation and you can bring a lot to it. Related text. This character Peter is in a lot of Ezra Jack Keats books. He actually ages in the story, so there is that timeline passing. And Ezra Jack Keats has written a lot of books, so you can always make connections between how's the style of this book different than this one and things like that. Thanks for watching this first episode. Hope it was helpful. Please subscribe. That's the feedback that helps us know that we should keep making these videos. Thank you.